Thank you, guys. I'm Stephane Dubois, CEO and founder of Ignite. That's how we pronounce the name of the company. Sorry. Now, how many of you are a citizen of the United Kingdom in this room? Now, is it me, guys, or you think there's too many bloody French presenting at this conference? All right? I mean, I'll give you one more. I don't know if there's any more after, but it's been great. So let me talk to you a little bit about the market data API ecosystem. We've talked about a lot of things about APIs. One big aspect of fintech and finance and financial services is financial market data. So obviously, when we talk again about fintech, you have payments, and you have lending, and you have the whole capital market space, wealth management, investment management, trading, and whatnot. And obviously, market data is very core to this segment of the industry. It's really the lifeblood of finance in this area. It's a huge market. By the way, it did start about 150 years ago in the UK with Reuters, who started using pigeons to fly news across this beautiful countryside. And even 100 years ago, you had ticker tapes and whatnot. But today, it's a $26 billion industry, spanning huge amounts of data in different ways to feed different parts of the industry. And obviously, when you talk about data, we talked earlier in the sessions yesterday and today, we talked about getting data or write APIs and whatnot. Certainly, obtaining data via APIs is very much of a natural fit, right? And you'd be surprised. It's taken actually a long time for the industry to wake up to that. When you think about market data, it's actually a very still painful domain for a lot of financial institutions. It's typically it's a massive span area. Large banks, so the largest banks in the world, it's not unusual for them to spend $300 million a year on market data. And they will spend just as much on the infrastructure required to actually manage this data. So there's big hidden costs with it. So you have large departments dealing with data sourcing, and you have huge chunks of ITs dealing with connecting feeds, processing data, parsing feeds, loading databases, buying a lot of hardware and software, dealing a lot of the intricacies of this domain, which generally has been considered just the cost of doing business in finance. It's a big, big expense. And of course, market data APIs can make market data easy and really help essentially offload a lot of the management of the infrastructure for the data to the cloud, to the API providers, help firms innovate, build new experiences, new applications very quickly. So it's a natural fit. It's not necessarily a complete APIs will not occupy the whole industry, will not replace everything in the industry. A lot of market data is consumed via terminals and still via low latency feeds, and it'll continue being consumed this way. But so just taking a look at the state of the market and how APIs are being used in market data. We created our first commercial market data API in 2004. So we've been doing APIs for a little while. And we thought really that it would just take a year or two before most market data would be consumable via APIs. It's still taken a huge amount of time. So today, you have very large universes of data available, but still most of the data is delivered via terminals. It's delivered via legacy feeds. A lot of files are being FTP'd around. Big data vendors have tried to build APIs. Often they're very proprietary. They're not standard-based. They were written as offshoot from client-server architecture, so they're very data-centric instead of being application-centric. They're also very fragmented, so you'll find some data may be available on some APIs, but others will still use files or feeds and whatnot. So there's no standardization. There's no consistency. It's not necessarily scalable either. And of course, as I said, some segments are not very well suited to APIs either. Like, you can't really do high-frequency trading over a REST-based APIs going over the cloud. You're just not going to have the latency that you need. Now, as more data is being available, emerging players are also adopting data quickly. So the traditional vendors have been very slow to adopt them. Newer players that are creating new data sets are making this data available quickly. But it's still sometimes very low volume, very unproven, if you want. A lot of those APIs are still in beta. But new data sets like crowdsource information, like for companies like Estimize or TipRanks, you'll find it via APIs. Social data, of course, StockTwits or Site Signal, things that will analyze the sentiment in the world will be available. Some vertical data sets are also available there, and you have even some initiatives around trying to create some data supermarkets, companies like Quando, for example. You also have a lot of initiatives to try to embed market data via APIs into other systems, whether they are financial systems like back office system or trading systems, and even business intelligence solutions, for example. So it's a little bit the state of the market. Now, this is, we've talked about fintech. This is a little bit our little view on what we've seen causing and driving the fintech revolution. And I had links to market data. We've been selling commercial APIs for more than 10 years, as I said. Right? So we've seen that. We've done this for a while. And we had the privilege to actually feeding and selling data to a lot of the fintech companies that are really shaking the world today. And so what we've really seen things accelerating is once the market has gone up, the generation of millennials came in, and once the technology suddenly made it available, made it possible to start building applications very quickly, you had like a perfect storm that really drove the fintech revolution. Many of the companies started 4 or 5 years ago, but it wasn't until like 2-3 years that things really started taking off. So what we see happening, we talk a lot about, new companies, disintermediating the banks, disintermediating, asset managers and whatnot. But beyond that, you also have essentially a whole generational replacement of the technology that is being implemented in financial service organizations. For those of you who've been around for a little while, we had the client-server generation of software, and then we moved to the web, and we rewrote every applications for the web. And now pretty much everybody's just rewriting everything for the cloud and service orientation. And obviously, fintech companies are the first to do it. They're early adopters by excellence. But large banks are also looking at it. And we really still at the beginning of this. So, for us, the fintech revolution is really the indication of this early adoption of this new wave of technology as firms, use that technology to create new business model and whatnot. But still, you have this big opportunity behind to replace, rewrite massive amount of technology and pieces of software inside large financial organization. And those applications are going to need data. And because they are new, because they are based on service orientation, they're going to be consuming their data via APIs. Now, a little bit more about us, since we pretty much have been the first player and the main player in this market. We do cloud-based market data distribution. We introduced our first API in 2004, but we got funding in 2006, so that's really when the company took off. We're based in Silicon Valley. We've raised $20 million to date, about 40 employees. We've been on Amazon as a native platform since 2008. We serve about 50 billion API requests a month. So just during my talk, we will have served about 50 million API requests, just to give you an idea. So it's a very high volume, and it's pretty much a quadruple every year. So we have more than 1,000 customers all around the world. About half of them are technology companies, fintech companies, software companies serving financial services or not. We have more than 1,000 API endpoints broken in 50 different services and serving data from more than 150 sources. So we are a pure play API data provider, if you want. Just to give you an idea of some of the companies who use us, so you'll see in the financial technology world, even though we have clients in the UK and in Europe and around the world in Asia, a lot of leading companies in the US, all the robo-advisors use us, trading companies use us. We're being used to do trading and manage huge amounts of money. other technology companies in vertical segments, financial service organizations, even data vendors buy data from us. It's a very incestuous industry, and we all buy data from each other. It's just the way it is. Nobody knows. And a lot of firms around the world might find it so easy to just consume some data from us, like FX data or interest rates or various little bits of data that we get integrated into their corporate systems. So we're being used to power new applications that are being built from scratch. Sometimes we replace all the stuff. And this is how we see the world of market data. That is, that $25 billion market I was talking about, 26, a lot of it is consumed via terminals, more than $15 billion in size. But that is, and we know who the players are. It's Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters, FactSet. But this is a flatlining market. It's a Pepsi versus Coke. There's no growth in the market. Another big market is the low latency, high frequency trading feeds, about $1.5 billion. But that is also a flatlining market because high frequency trading is not developing anymore. And really the opportunity is in feeding this next generation of applications that many of you are building or are thinking of building. And for that, what matters is openness, is integration, ease of integration, and scope of information. And there's never been really a platform where you could go and say, I want to consume, half a dozen different data sets, 20 different data sets. Can I get all this data in a unified fashion to consume it? So that exists for terminals, that exists for feeds, never existed for APIs, if you want. And so that's what we have. We have that catalog of APIs. They're all integrated to work together. And really the main benefit is you can just build things really quickly, as you could see from the demonstration from Stream Data before, who uses APIs as well. So this is a little view of what we do and the scope of what we do. This speaks a little bit to the lower level, speaks to our stack and the amount of data we have on the platform, number of data points, availability, 200 terabytes of data, 30 million instruments, high response. It's built for enterprise use. We have all different types of data, all markets, all asset classes. And we do APIs, of course. REST APIs remain the primary way we do business, but we also can deliver data via files. If you're talking about very large data sets that are going to be used for back testing and whatnot, we can deliver terabytes of data to Amazon accounts so that you can play around with it. We also have HTML5 widgets. If you don't want to actually code anything, you just want to slap it on a website. And working with Stream Data, we also do the cloud streaming piece. And we tend to feed all kinds of applications as well. We have a massive API catalog. I don't know if anybody has as much as we do. It's a very deep domain, so more than 45 services, 1,000 endpoints that you can essentially search and find out, hey, what data can I use to build my application? One-stop shop concept. And we started integrating with also third parties that have complementary APIs to our catalog. Definitely the easiest APIs in the industry. That's always been there was a lot of talk about design, how we make things easy for the developer. That's always been our primary focus. So we have those 1,000 endpoints, but they're all integrated. That is, they all behave the same. We use central security master, so you can access real-time data, master data, historical data, fundamental data. All this is like one integrated solution for the developer. We even have a free API that you can use. You feel free to use it, whether you're a large bank or a fintech company. If you want to implement like type-ahead functionality in your app, autocomplete, where you want to search the security and find its symbol, and not have to build a massive caching infrastructure with a big security master behind it. You can just use that free REST API to just pop up and let people pick a symbol and to pick a valid security symbol if you want. And that's freely available on our website. Data from 150 sources. So a lot of exchange data. We have data from all global markets. We also do our own scraping, sometimes called scrapping. So collect data from public sources, from central bank. We collect some unique data sets there. So when it's public information, we get it from the public sources. If it's exchange data, we license it. Or sometimes we also have relationship with vendors like FactSet, like Morningstar, like 6 financials, merchants. So we're able to redistribute and consolidate all this data inside those APIs. Very importantly, this is the only platform I know that was designed for the next generation of applications. That is, it's obviously based on elastic computing, on Amazon, and we can crank up the volume very easily. As I told you, our volume double every 6 months. That's going from 25 billion to 50 billion in 6 months. And we obviously can do that very easily. So that means the platform is designed to serve all those new endpoints that are getting connected to the internet every day and that are potential consumers of data. So we already have at least a dozen customers with Apple Watch applications. We deliver data in planes. I don't know if any of you owns a Gulfstream. You probably get data from us. But Toyota or Lexus, you can get data from us. We get integrated into voice recognition systems and whatnot. So it's really designed to bring little bits or large bits of data to all those applications on a very scalable and very low-cost fashion. Some disruptive use case with our technology that some of you might be familiar with, although this is a little US-centric, forgive me. Wealthfront, largest, most famous, I would say, robo-advisor, built their business starting in like 2008 using and consuming our data. And all other robo-advisors, Future Advisor, Personal Capital, Betterment, all use our data, and we're essentially built on this. They would tell you that their business was essentially enabled by the emergence of exchange-traded funds, which made passive management easy, trading APIs and market data APIs. Robinhood, it's a zero-cost mobile broker. You can literally sign up today, and tomorrow you'll be trading and live, and all this trading is fed by our data. And because we eliminate all this infrastructure, they can actually achieve zero cost. StockTwit's largest social finance platform is also a client. Motif Investing, online broker that uses some social concepts called Motif, also entirely powered by us. So these are all companies that have innovated, come up with new models, and leveraged the fact that they don't have to build the whole infrastructure and just consume APIs, that they'd be able to focus on innovation. But we also have large firms, large banks using us. Wells Fargo is building internal applications using our data. Even though they already have all the data in the world 3 times, they find it easier to plug into our APIs than plugging into the internal systems they have with that data already. So this is all about time to market and innovation. Bank of Montreal uses our platform to manage, to get data from us, but also manage some data they buy from other vendors, essentially using the cloud to offload all this infrastructure and expose that data via APIs. Yodlee, big provider of account aggregation data, uses us as well. NASDAQ also uses our platform to power some of their own APIs. So these are large firms that are essentially building part of their business on our platform. Now, there's still some remaining challenges. A lot of the data universe is still untapped, unexposed. We don't have everything. We don't have every exchange in the world. We don't have every little data point available, exotic data sets and whatnot. There's still a limited offering of advanced services. The whole vision is to say, I'm going to consume data via API. So it means I'm not going to have that data necessarily stored in my environment. And I might not be able to do certain things. If what you're trying to do in your application requires screening a database or parsing a big universe of data, well, if you only consume data on demand, you will not be able to do it. So the opportunity is to offer those advanced services so that I just don't consume data as a service, but I might consume like some screening service or some alert service, some advanced analytics service, and this is still fairly limited from an offering standpoint. And integration between all of those is still not necessarily easy. You still have to go and find out what's available, and everybody might use different symbology, everybody might use different approaches, and so if you are a large consumer, if you build a new business based on APIs, well, you're still going to have to cobble all those things together. So actually, this is why last week we were at Finovate in New York, and we were at Finovate in London here in January. But we announced an initiative called the FinTech Revolution Ecosystem. You've heard some of those concepts here. But essentially what we did is we combined a list of 17 providers, and these are the initial founders of it. These are providers of essentially infrastructure APIs in capital markets, right? Things that you can use to actually build a business, a financial service business, or a financial service application, if you want. They are not banks. They don't provide essentially end consumer services. They provide infrastructure services. And what we're doing is we're combining all of those to put them all in our catalog and kind of unify a little bit how those APIs work, how they're offered, how each member of the ecosystem knows how the others work as well, and how they interact with each other in order to make this a lot easier for the developer, for the entrepreneur, or for the project manager in a large bank to actually consume those. So to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, you have a lot of different categories of data involved, account aggregation with the Yodlee. You can algorithmic trading APIs, performance ranking of analysts, charting, crowdsourced earnings estimates, ESG data, equity ratings, financial planning APIs that you can, it's really a right API that you can consume from, trade and quote data, social data, of course market data with us. You can even do portfolio management. You can do trading. Of course, you have Eric here with stream data if you want to add streaming on top of your APIs, risk management, and whatnot. So really a collection of the different building blocks that you can use to build something new as easily as possible. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, we have time for a few questions. No, that's not a question. Because I may have a question for you. Is about how. So you explain it, and really, I want to say that most of the speakers, like we invite them for like best practices and everything, but we really wanted to have you because we think you represent the change of the fintech industry thanks to APIs. So thank you to describe this, and we invited you for that. But how in integration and in a providing way, APIs are really changing the way you are doing this market data. So just imagine it was 20 years before. Mm-hmm. How long, how painful it would have been. You said it at the beginning, but just explain how would have been the processes, maybe.
So without APIs?
Yeah, without APIs. We really don't understand what before and after.
Sure. So let's say you don't have APIs available. Let's say you want to put real-time market data in an application, which is what we just demoed, right? Well, the traditional process would be to go get a feed from an exchange or a consolidator, which would give you access to different markets. So you're going to have to buy this feed, so that's going to take you a couple months. Then those feeds are proprietary feeds, and they are binary feeds that feed large amounts of data to you. So you're going to have to get some hardware to collocate a server wherever the feed is available. So you're going to have to buy some hardware, deploy it, put it there to be able to start collecting the data. Then you have this proprietary feed that's throwing maybe 100,000 messages per second at you, and that has 300 pages of documentation, and you're going to have to be able to write a lot of code to process all those messages and figure out, I need to get some quotes from that. I want to just know what the price of a stock is, right? And then this comes from the exchange, and so it's just exchange symbology in there. So if you want to map that to a QSIP, a CEDL, some unique identifiers in the industry, well, you're out of luck. You're going to have to figure out how to do that yourself. So you're talking now about months of coding, a lot of money spent on co-location, connectivity, development. So you're talking about $250,000, 6 months, 3 to 6 months, depending. If you've never done it before, it's going to take you 6 months. If you've done it before, it'll take you 3 months. And so this is just an example for real-time data. Now, we just like you've seen the demo today, but we did at Finovate, we showed essentially how you could do the same thing with APIs under 1 minute. Right? And you just go, call the API, and pull it back. And that API, you can call it as hard as you want, or you can even use the streaming service like what you saw with Eric to stream the data to you using simple HTTP protocol. So now, before you'd have to build this whole infrastructure, get data from the exchange, co-locate, build this whole infrastructure to be able to feed some real-time data to your users. And most banks, by the way, do this. And they spend millions on it. Now you can literally write your application code, whether it's mobile or web, a few lines of code, and we'll push data directly there. And you're done. So that's the difference.
So do you consider you are on the shoulder of giants, and then thanks to that you are able to be really dynamic?
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about standards. We talked about Amazon, obviously, is a very big deal in terms of providing the elastic infrastructure to do a lot of those things, allowing the standards, all of this allowing us to centralize, create a mutualized infrastructure where all the data is stored using infrastructure services like Amazon, right? And actually, I think this is my next slide, right? What is the vision? Is infrastructure APIs, shoulder of giants, right? Standards, and we build the data APIs. And then we have our clients and the banks and everybody else creating analytics APIs, workflow APIs, and applications that can all be consumed. So we're all standing on the shoulders of each other, essentially. Right?
Thank you.
That's the idea.
For one more question, yeah, here.
Thank you. You have an API catalog. So how long it would take you to provide me, for example, based on that catalog, a stream only on blue chips news, the one that you do not have for the moment, suppose? How long do it take you to provide me that?
A stream on blue chips companies?
Yeah, just like a filter on something you already have.
I mean, everything you heard about how you do APIs well is pretty much what we do. You can go on our website today, get a free trial. You'll be able to probably code what you're trying to do today, maybe tomorrow, depending on if you've worked with APIs before or not. You'll test it, you'll try it, you'll be done. You'll probably spend more time building your application than consuming the APIs. So it's really instantly available. There's really, we talk a lot about onboarding, and just to give you an idea, we have 1,000 customers, so these are all enterprises, right? All enterprises. You saw the logos there. 1,000 firms using our APIs 50 billion times a month, and we have 2 people supporting that. Just to give you an idea, this is including onboarding, everything. That's what it takes.
So APIs scale, right?
You bet.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephane. Thank you very much.
Thank you.